Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today for what I hope will be the start of a new series of analyzing real world counterparts in video games. And I thought I would start with my favorite game, Fallout New Vegas. Now, just a little bit about me. I am a trained gunsmith. I went to school for gunsmithing, and I have worked in custom rifle shops. I've worked on production lines building firearms, and I am a certified armorer from several major manufacturers. So, firearms and firearms technology has been something that has had a huge impact on my life. And actually, Fallout New Vegas was a game where I loved the guns before I even began getting involved in gunsmithing or anything of the sort. Fallout New Vegas has a wide range of firearms, and you can tell that the studio at Obsidian had a number of firearm lovers, as of the modern entrants in the series, New Vegas is far and away the most accurate in its depiction of real-world firearms and mechanics. I picked just a gun to start with today because it sounded fun, and because I think this gun is so wonderfully kind of wacky Fallout styled with its aesthetics and ridiculous round capacity that it could be easily assumed that this gun was something that was made up for the game, and that is the Silenced 22 SMG. However, this is a gun that is patterned off of a very real gun known as the American 180. The American 180 started its life as the Casull Model 290 submachine gun designed in the 60s. It had stylistic influences that included the Lewis submachine gun with its pan-fed magazine, and the Thompson SMG, which you can kind of see with the iconic wood grip and finned barrel look. Rumor has it that only about 80 of these guns were produced under the name Casull Model 290 because they were very expensive to produce. However, development continued in the 70s with a couple of other companies, and these guns were marketed towards military and police, as well as correctional facilities, and even the sporting civilian. At the time, machine guns were legal in the United States, but featured an extensive registration process through the National Firearms Act of 1934, meaning that although there was a pretty burdensome process, the average person who wanted to blast away with an open-bolt rimfire submachine gun could in fact file paperwork and own one of these. That time has since passed, and the registry has closed, meaning no new firearms can be added to the registry or lawfully owned if they are fully automatic. However, those that made the registry are still available for transfer today, with an average American 180 submachine gun running more than $10,000 on the used machine gun market. As shown in the game, the American 180 fired a .22 long rifle cartridge, and it fired it at an amazing rate of 1,200 rounds per minute. Now, the .22 long rifle is a fairly low-powered cartridge. It is popular for sport shooters, small game hunters, and what we refer to as plinkers, people who enjoy shooting targets, especially steel, just for the fun of it. And that's where the word plinker comes from the plink noise that the round makes when hitting steel. .22 long rifle is also one of the most economic ways to shoot and can be purchased in boxes ranging from hundreds to thousands in a single case at the store, making it a good gun for recreational sport shooting. Obviously, this caliber would be appealing to somebody who would burn through this many rounds in a single trigger pull. The gun also used a .22 long rifle Magnum cartridge, which, as far as I can find, is no longer produced, and was essentially a high-velocity .22 long rifle, firing a little bit faster. Because of the increased back pressure, this would up the fire rate from 1,200 rounds per minute to 1,500 rounds per minute. The American 180, as depicted in Fallout New Vegas, seems to be a short-barreled model without the stock. As it was designed after the Thompson submachine gun, it had a very similar stock removal point so that the firearm could be operated in this manner if desired. Now, the firearm in Fallout New Vegas is a silenced SMG. and from the thick profile of the barrel in Fallout New Vegas, we can assume that it has what is known as an integral suppressor. An integral suppressor surrounds the barrel, and the gases feed into the suppressor by ports drilled into the barrel. This has two effects: greatly reducing the noise of the expanding gases, as well as tapering off the gas of high-velocity cartridges so that they would slow down and fall below the sound barrier, therefore not emitting a sonic crack. We call these cartridges subsonic, and typically you would have to carefully select subsonic ammunition to remove the sonic crack. However, an integral suppressor design using gas-reducing ports would slow standard ammunition to a subsonic speed so that all ammunition would be equally quiet in the function of the gun. This obviously fits into the intended playstyle in Fallout New Vegas, where it is featured along a silenced 22 long rifle pistol. However, that pistol, which we will cover in another video, actually did exist in a factory integrally suppressed configuration, and it was rumored that it was used by Navy Special Forces. While a suppressor would be an obvious fun addition to a firearm such as this that somebody already owned, I cannot find any examples of an integrally suppressed model coming from the factory. However, if anybody has heard of one, I would love to see it if you'd link to it in the comments. I believe that Obsidian chose to make this a silenced SMG using just a small amount of artistic license so that it would fit into sneak builds within the game, and also would have an appropriate partner in the silenced 22 long rifle. Another notable feature of the American 180 is that it was originally marketed with one of the first examples of widespread adoption of firearm lasers mounted to the firearm. Obviously, laser technology was in an earlier stage, and these lasers were nowhere near as bright or compact or long-lasting as our lasers today. However, it shows that the intended use was to be able to easily point at a target and essentially blanket it with a wall of lead. Thinking in practical terms, the American 180 could almost be referred to as a sequential shotgun. What do I mean by that? Well, the 22 long rifle bullet is about the size of a buckshot pellet of a smaller gauge, such as a number 1 or number 4 buckshot. When firing 1,200 rounds per minute, that means you unleash 20 rounds per 1 second that you pull the trigger. So essentially, you are releasing the same or a greater amount of lead in a span of time that is stretched out over a second rather than a single trigger pull, therefore sequential. This shows the devastating effects that the round or the firearm could have on unarmored targets, which you can see in the game, as it does a great deal to targets that have no damage resistance or damage threshold. The American 180 came with drum magazines that fed anywhere from 160 to 175 rounds in each magazine, and were notoriously slow and difficult to load, leading to the company actually selling magazine loaders to help with the process. There is also a 275 round magazine available that is still produced and manufactured today. The purchase of this drum magazine actually includes a heightened sight because the magazine is so physically tall that it blocks the sights that are installed on the firearm. Overall, I rate the accuracy of the American 180 in Fallout New Vegas as highly accurate in its depiction. Now, this was not a widespread firearm, so it's not exactly likely that we would see it laying all over the place, but it is mechanically accurate, and as well, I think it really fits with a lot of the theming in Fallout New Vegas, so it is a good stylistic choice and very interesting to me. One kind of humorous note is you may have seen earlier in the video in VATS when the firearm is ejecting the cases, they are proportionally huge. They look like 5.56 or 7.62 by 39 cases, whereas the 22 long rifle is tiny. I'm not going to dig into Obsidian for this because they made New Vegas in 18 months, and I know there were technical limitations, and they did the best they could. And you just can't have everything perfect in a 10-year-old game that was made on that time scale, but I appreciate the attention to detail regardless. Now, just for comparison, I'd like to show you a video of an actual American 180 being fired, basically just a magazine dump, This video comes from the YouTube channel Ohio Outdoor Journal, and I will link the full video in the description. I've only sampled a couple seconds of it, so if you want to see more of their video on an actual example of the American 180, I do encourage you to click on that, give them support for showcasing a pretty rare firearm, as I do not have access to one to show you. But listen to the sound and the absolute insane rate of fire that the firearm accomplishes, and you'll understand why it gets nicknames such as the Swarm of Angry Hornets. Well, everybody, if you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching and giving me a little bit of your time. Please do feel free to leave comments or feedback, anything I can do to make this better. I am not a video editor, I am not a video game expert. I love Fallout, I love firearms, and I love being overly pedantic about fictional stories and worlds. So, this type of video is something I am putting out just for fun, and also something to kind of keep me busy and somewhat in touch with my career field and passion, as chronic medical issues have kind of made it very difficult for me to continue working as a gunsmith at this time. So I thought I would give a hand at doing something a little bit different so that I can share my unique interests and perspectives and stay engaged with the things that I enjoy. With that said, I do hope you learned something from this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to see you subscribe and come back to see another video if you'd like to see more of this type of content. Not just Fallout New Vegas, but I do plan to do this for a number of different IPs and video game franchises, and maybe even step outside of video games a little bit into film, TV, who knows what. In fact, you may know what, and if you do, I invite you to leave a comment suggesting what else I should cover. And also, what is your favorite Fallout New Vegas firearm? Is there one that you think I should cover? I'd love to get to all of them eventually, at least the ones that have a particular real-world counterpart, but if there is one that you are particularly interested in or not interested in, I'd love to know that so I can plan the order that I'm going to do the next videos. So, until next time, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.